Hi, I'm Liz Cambrone, Liz Capco now. I am a type 2 diabetic and I was first diagnosed in 2014, so a little over 7 years ago. And I have really been more involved with the diabetes community in the past couple of years, and that's because I just really needed it. As a diabetic, I'm also a first generation Mexican American. So most of my family are type 2 diabetics. And so it's something that I grew up with. I grew up with, seeing my mom inject insulin, seeing my grandma do insulin, my aunts and uncles, take medications. But I didn't grow up seeing, people working out. I didn't grow up seeing my family eat salads. It was, very cultural foods. And not that cultural foods are bad, but we were never really taught what nutrition is, what's a balanced meal, what are carbs. And so that's not something I grew up with. And what I did grow up with was this cultural stigma of, well, it runs in our family, that's just what it is. You just live with it like the rest of us. Like there's nothing you can do about it. And it's something that, we did to ourselves, that type 2 diabetics are lazy, that, we did this to ourselves. This was completely preventable, which is not true at all. There's a huge genetics component to it that I think a lot of people discredit. And that makes, when we are diagnosed, that makes us feel like, well, this is really our fault, that this was, we failed our bodies, that we failed ourselves. Which really can impact our self-confidence, our motivation to want to work on our health, to make sure that we're managing our diabetes effectively. And although I, didn't have kind of that role model of what a healthy diabetic looks like, I did eventually get that through the online community. So through Instagram, I have really connected and made friends with other type 1 and type 2 diabetics from all different backgrounds, and especially people of color, which is something that I didn't really have growing up besides my own family. So it was really helpful to see, how does everyone else manage their diabetes? Because this is a very personal disease, which can also make it very frustrating because you see someone else take this one medication and it's really helped them lower their A1C, but you tried it and it didn't do anything for you. It made, gave you tons of side effects. And so it can be very frustrating to know that, what works for one person doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And that is absolutely frustrating. And so there's a lot of trial and error with diabetes that, can be exhausting to always, try new things and not have them work, to be trying new medications, new lifestyles, new diets, new nutrition. And you really have to just figure out what works for you. And so there's a lot of comparison that really hinders your ability to figure out what works for you. But once you get to that point, it's amazing. So with my healthcare providers and with my community, I've been able to manage my diabetes, well for myself, for my body. I've learned to listen to it, to learn what foods affect my sugars, which ones don't, what workouts work better for me and my lifestyle. And that's been a total game changer. As far as my community, that is something that I really try to advocate for. So I've learned to become my own advocate. But I also try through my social media to encourage and teach other people how to advocate for themselves, especially people my age in their 20s and 30s, because another stigma is that diabetes only happens to older people. I remember when I was diagnosed at 23, everyone told me, you're too young. Well, yeah, I am, but that can still happen. And so people my age still have to deal with living with diabetes, having a social life, navigating pregnancy, navigating dating, and that's something that diabetes impacts. Diabetes impacts everything. And so I really try to advocate and share my story so that way people my age know that they're not alone, that, this is manageable. You can live with diabetes and live a happy, healthy, long life.